Now, Bolton in Greater Manchester is one of the areas where tighter restrictions have already been imposed, including a ban on being in other people's homes, pubs, bars and restaurants offering takeaway or delivery only, and venues forced to close at 10 p.m. Infection rates continue to be high there, but the rate has started to come down. Our special correspondent Ed Thomas has been assessing the latest situation.
The warning signs are for all to see.
Stop a Bolton lockdown.
And hear.
Don't mix with other households. You'll be fined if you do.
For 6 weeks, Bolton has faced more and more COVID restrictions. No household mixing, essential travel only, and now pubs and restaurants are takeaway only. But still, the town has the highest infection rate in the UK.
Well, it should be full of life and vibrant and busy.
Chris and Rebecca had big plans for their new business, but that was before COVID and before the local ban here on pubs opening.
With no end in sight of when anything's going to change.
What's going to happen if this continues?
Bankruptcy.
So we come in here, we work hard, and it might just all be over.
For weeks, they've followed the rules.
The importance of self-isolation.
And today's Corona briefing
As a 6-month problem.
offered little comfort.
How do we survive for 6 months? We're the guinea pigs for the nation, I think. But like Rebecca said, and it's not
I don't
working.
think it's worked, and so what potentially has happened is they've changed tact on that, but then they've just left us sailing in the wind with nothing.
Are you keeping Brian okay?
We heard that frustration again and again. What has it been like here in Bolton?
Desperate. We're given so much contradictory information. I'm now at the point where I don't know what to think.
Despite weeks of sacrifice, many here want to know why cases are still high.
People are quite scared to, go out.
Would you support even tougher measures?
Yeah, I think I would do, 'cause something needs to be done.
How long have you been shielding for?
I've been shielding right since the start of lockdown.
David Greenhalgh is the leader of Bolton Council. Why aren't cases dropping in a meaningful way, despite the restrictions?
Things do take time, so we are starting to see the early signs of certainly a decrease in the rate of increase, as it were, of number of cases, and we are hopefully starting to see the beginnings of those signs of plateauing.
But exactly when will all this end for Bolton?
Half the shops here now are boarded up already.
Cleaners like Angela and Nikki fear unintended consequences.
We stick to the rules. We don't go out mingling and things like that, but it's like we're being punished. We can't go anywhere. Lancashire, North West, parts of Yorkshire, those towns that are already struggling with closures already, and now got even more things closed.
Public health leaders hope restrictions here will work. They say it's vital to save lives. Ed Thomas, BBC News, Bolton.
As we heard earlier, Boris Johnson spoke to the First Ministers of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland this afternoon, telling them that the rising number of cases was a cause of great concern. In a moment, we'll have the latest from our Scotland editor, Sarah Smith, and our Ireland correspondent, Emma Vardy. But first, here's the latest from Wales and our correspondent, Hywel Griffith.
Here in Wales, it's starting to feel like significant change is coming. Already 4 new lockdown areas announced: Blaenau Gwent, Bridgend, Merthyr Tydfil and Newport. New measures coming in there tomorrow at 6 p.m. Joined with Caerphilly and Rhondda Cynon Taf, it means that 850,000 people will be put under tougher lockdown rules. It means that people aren't allowed to travel in or out of their local council area without a good reason, like going to work or to education. People aren't allowed to meet indoors with anyone from another household, and there's an 11 p.m. curfew for pubs, clubs, bars and restaurants. But even now, already there's talk of a much wider lockdown area across all of South Wales. Police officers, the NHS and council leaders are meeting tomorrow, and even what they decide might be overtaken by anything agreed by the 4 nations at tomorrow's Cobra meeting.
Here in Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon says fast and urgent action is required. And she's going to make an announcement tomorrow afternoon about new restrictions across Scotland, because it is up to the Scottish Government, of course, to set its own distinct rules. But the First Minister says in these circumstances it does make sense to have a broadly similar approach across the whole of the UK, even if the rules are not identical in each individual nation. She's taken a more cautious approach in the past than Westminster, and already there are restrictions in place in Glasgow, the surrounding areas, and in Lanarkshire that prevent people from visiting each other's homes. Nicola Sturgeon spoke to Boris Johnson on the phone this afternoon, and I'm told the two leaders are not too far apart on what measures they are planning. We'll find out more tomorrow.
Last week, localised restrictions were brought in here in postcodes where cases were highest, but now those restrictions are being extended across the whole of Northern Ireland. So that means from tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock, people will not be able to visit indoors in other people's homes, with a few exceptions for things like childcare. But it will feel like a significant step back from where we were. And ministers here at Stormont held an extra meeting this afternoon to decide upon the move and make that announcement. And it comes against a backdrop of concern over house parties in the student areas of Belfast, controversy over the weekend over a pitch invasion at a GAA match, and police increasingly trying to crack down on those breaking the rules.
That was Emma Vardy, our correspondent there in Belfast. Now, some of the government's financial support schemes are due to be phased out in the coming weeks, but now the Treasury apparently is considering extending them. Our economics editor Faisal Islam was with me to tell us more about the thinking. What's going on?
Well, we're already seeing an impact in global stock markets. In Europe, they were down 3 to 4%. In the UK, that was driven by falls in the value of airlines as global finance starts to come to the reality that we may be facing some sort of second wave of this pandemic. If you take a step back from what we've seen today, that kind of exponential growth in the virus wouldn't just be a terrible health disaster, it would also be a disaster for the economy. And so that's why the government is trying to act. It's not so simple, the relationship between the economy and the virus. But at the same level, when things were shut down in April, it cost us 20% of the economy. And so if we had like a 2-week circuit breaker, you're talking about setting back the recovery 6 months, a year. So very delicate. I think that's why you're not going to get a national shutdown because of the impact overall on the economy. They'll hold that in reserve. But I think many of the sectors that have been on their knees, hospitality, leisure, will fear the words of Chris Whitty saying that this was a 6-month problem. When the Chancellor faced this 6 months ago, he said that a bridge was required for the economy. And I think many people are now arguing that that bridge will have to be extended in this current reality.
Faisal, again, many thanks. Faisal Islam there, our economics editor.